And from there, that was 2 years ago. Last year, obviously, uh, they did start off good with the turnovers. That was another thing that was alarming. I guess that was the game plan though, that they didn't really have chances to get turnovers at all. Um, they were non-existent. There was last year they picked off Josh Allen 3 times. Um, this year they didn't get this last night they didn't get close to anything. They had the 49ers were, they had the ball security. They kept the ball tucked in. Um, the passes were wide open passes, which is a little bit concerning. Um, but yeah, I feel like you know I feel like they can get their shit in order. I think they were just too amped up. They had to bring it back down to earth. So I'm glad they got this loss, kind of wake them up as opposed to like thinking they're all this and that, and then at the end of they come up to Buffalo or whatever in weeks 5 or 6 and get a rude awakening. So not gonna go too crazy. What are your thoughts? You expected me to be handling this a little bit worse, better?
What are my thoughts on what? On football or on you? Which are you're
Yeah,
asking me how my
well, yeah.
thoughts
I mean,
on how I expect you to
no.
handle this?
What are your thoughts on what I just? No, no, no. I mean, do you agree? With some of what I said? Do you think it's asinine?
I don't think we ever agree on the Jets, so I mean, no, I agree with what you're saying. I just don't. Again, to me, both those performances were inexcusable. There's just no. I don't really have too much to say because it was disgusting. The Jets got
Mm,
dominated. Like, you could tell me about starting off slow and scheme. You could tell me all that. This is a team that I've heard a few things today that I don't get. Like, this whole idea that starting off slow. Like, this is not a team that this is not a rookie quarterback. It's not even a free agent quarterback that you got like a Kirk Cousins that you got years with. Like, this is a team that was expected to hit the ground running. Not we're gonna ease into the season. Like, this whole kind of recalibrating of what the expectation was. Like, the fact is that there was an expectation that this is a team. I've been hearing for 2 years about this Super Bowl defense and championship caliber defense. And if that's the case, you don't come out when you finally have your quarterback and get dominated like that. It was just inexcusable. I'm not saying that it means that they're a bad defense. I'm not saying that I don't expect them to have a good season. I just don't really have much to say because that was just I until I see more, I can't make excuses, but I also can't. I'm not gonna say, oh, the Jets suck. They're not gonna win games, whatever. Like, that was just a terrible performance. There's no excuse for it. They just got dominated, and the one thing I will say is, like you said, that they that it could be serve as a wake up call. I hope so, because this is not a team that has time for wake up calls. This is not a team that there was no wake up call built into the Jets schedule. The Jets
mhm.
schedule was, we've been waiting to have this. We were waiting to start last year with this quarterback. It didn't work out. We had to push. We had to push the whole fucking. We had to push the whole timeline back a year. But this was supposed to be hit the ground running. This was a team that this is a double digit win team, supposed to be. Like there's expectations, and it's not like wait and see. Like, it's not a team that has, at least, especially not for the defense. That's the thing. Like, if you told me that they played a close game and that the 49ers beat them 17-14, 17-10, and that the offense was a little, kind of getting into sync and getting into rhythm and kind of building some chemistry because there's new pieces, and obviously the finally getting to see Aaron Rodgers. But the defense was not supposed to be that. The defense was not supposed to be, we got to wait and they got to get it together. This is a well-established defense. Like, this is a defense that this is supposed to, and also this is supposed to be the calling card of the head coach. And you've been telling me about Ulbrich and all this, and that was, I mean, listen, you tell me Christian McCaffrey's out. You telling me you having issues with Ayuk and Trent Williams in camp. That was a spot that they completely didn't show up. So again, I'm not saying that it means they're a bad team, and I'm not saying that it means that all the expectations that we had for them is now out the window. But I'm making no excuse for that performance to get dominated like that. Like that team and the fans have been waiting to see this complete picture team that's supposed to be at minimum playoffs, at maximum championship contending team last year, let alone this year. This year, they're already a year behind. So they were supposed to hit the ground running, and they completely fucking laid an egg and pulled a no-show. And I won't make one word of an excuse for it, especially
No,
considering that the opponent you were going up against had question marks with some of their important players in training camp and was missing their best player on offense. That I can't make a word of an excuse. And not only that, the one thing I will say too, I'm gonna take my lap, because I think that yesterday just confirmed what I've been saying for years about why I viewed the Christian McCaffrey trade the way that I did. Just because this is a team, of all the teams, the San Francisco, that has proven that they can get production in the running game without having to allocate resources and assets to the running back position. That is the one team that has never needed to invest heavily in running back. And now they're having you look at the problems with the camp with fucking Ayuk and Trent Williams, and what's gonna happen when Brock Purdy's time for him to get paid? Then the window's shut. Then it's over.
no.
So
I mean,
I don't
I
know.
mean,
It's hard to kill the
Shanahan's
49ers after a game like that yesterday, but I'm just saying, as I was sitting there watching Jordan Mason completely just gash of what's supposed to be a top defense in the league, I'm just thinking to myself, this is exactly why, as great as Christian McCaffrey is, I just don't see I never saw the value in that trade and in allocating those resources. But
Yeah, but it is a lot more difficult to find a running back who's white. So,
is it?
I mean, it's pretty hard. You have
Why?
to give up reason. If you want a white running back, you got to give up. There's not that many out there.
I kind of feel like they could have made another one if they wanted to. There's not that many out there because they're not on the Niners, is my point. If they made it to the Niners, then you would see more of them. That's all I'm saying, is
Oh,
that
well,
there's not that many out there on other teams that's not the Niners. I'm just saying the Niners, it just feels like they
touche,
could put
touche.
anybody there. I mean, I don't want to diminish Jordan Mason. Obviously, the guys that they put, are skilled. But again, I just feel like of all the teams, there's very few teams to me in the NFL that are built in a way that it makes sense for them to, invest that way in a running back.
And didn't he sign an extension?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that's the thing, is I kind of felt like that comes with the trade, right? That comes with the deal. Once you kind of invest, it's the same.
But he was
way,
already
like,
there though. He's already been there. How many years? What year is this? Three or four of the.
3 or 4, one of the two. I think.
Yeah,
I think this is three. This is 3.5 because it was
Okay.
because it was an in-season trade, right? He was
Yeah.
traded
So
before
I mean,
the deadline, I think.
yeah. So I mean, I just like you've had him enough time to where like what do you have another year on his contract? I feel like you could have. I mean, this would have been an easy time to kind of wean yourself out of that position, like what you were saying, right? You had another year. If you use this year up and you have him under contract, it's still part of the window. You know what I'm saying?
Unfortunately, I
And
feel like
you could have.
that's a little bit of hey, John Lynch. You remember we used to play together? My son, that he's on your team.
Yeah.
Like maybe you
Hmm.
show him a little love with the contract because we boys we go back. I feel like there's some
Yeah.
aspect of that to it too.
Take care of them. Yeah.
Exactly. So Word Life is not here, but we'll recap his picks. He had the best week of all. Which I take exception to him saying that he felt like the Lions pick was lucky. That really aggravates me to hear that kind of talk. We're above that. Come on, we know how this goes. I feel like that's very much week one, haven't watched football in a while vibes. Like by week five, after we've watched the fucking ball bounce all different ways and we've lost picks and won picks, that's just that's football, baby. There's no luck. Like, especially since he picks the Lions. He gives the analysis, the brilliant analysis of main reason making the pick. Rams are without Aaron Donald. Don't know what to expect from the Rams defense, and ultimately expecting that the Lions O-line is gonna, when it comes down to it, have their way with the Rams D-line. And that's exactly what happened. It's literally exactly what happened. Like if you call it, how lucky can it be if you call the script of how the game's gonna play out? Like of course, like the ball bounces different ways, but like the Lions, they were given 4.5. He gave the 4.5. They were clearing that number most of the game up until the fourth quarter when Goff throws that pick. But in the end, they won by 6 because the Rams didn't have Aaron Donald, and they stopped playing around, stopped being cute, and we're just like, yo, we're just going to fucking hold the ball, give it to Montgomery, and let's get up out of here with this dub. And that's what they did, and he called it. So I'm like, yo, it's not a lucky pick. Like, it went exactly like, I bet if he would have given a score, it would have been something close to the score. How you get there, we never know how we're gonna get there. You don't bet the path.
Yeah.
You just bet the number, man. Like you
Yeah.
get the
Yeah.
win. You don't throw
I
it
mean,
back.
I did kind of get what he was saying, just in the terms of like that he could have easily just kicked a field goal, or if they got the fourth down, like got to fourth down, kicked the field goal in overtime, and and if
Yeah, they
the
would have. You
Lions
know
would have
when they would
won,
have
but they
done
wouldn't.
that? They would have done that if Aaron Donald was on the other side, and they weren't able to just run the ball down their throat and end up
Mm-hmm.
winning by 6. But
Yeah.
they didn't have that, which is exactly why he said he was making the pick. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm
True.
not killing him. I'm just saying, like, yo, come on, take credit. Like, you called the fucking game. Like, yeah, there was like, there's plenty of games where I pick where it's dicey at a point, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's lucky.
Yeah.
Especially if it plays out in any way the way I called it. Like, take
Yeah.
credit for that. So he had Lions. He had Lions as his 2-point pick. He had Houston, who came close to covering but were unable to cover. And that's another one. Like, I don't think he was unlucky for the Houston pick not cashing. It just wasn't the right side. Like, there are times where I feel like you take it. Like, I don't think that the Giants were the wrong side. I don't regret that pick. It's gonna be very hard to convince me that I should regret taking a home dog week 1 against a team that didn't make the playoffs the last year and that is starting their backup quarterback. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't work out, didn't even come close. They got blown out. But I'm not gonna sit here and
Yeah.
say, oh, I made the wrong pick. Just because of that. Like,
Mhm.
I still feel like that was the right side to be on, all things
I,
considered.
on the field, from an on-field perspective, that was the right pick. The only thing that was the warning flag was the number and the Vegas, like,
Yes.
that's the only thing, but that has nothing to do with what should have been happening on the field.
Yeah, and there's plenty of times where Vegas does not get it right. I mean, Vegas, like, you looking back, you looked at that Dallas Cleveland line and were like, this is ridiculous. And look, Vegas got it dead fucking wrong by a mile.
Well, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like we could have
Yeah.
looked at that Giants game like this. We could have looked at that as this is one where we feel like Vegas got it wrong. They don't always get it right. But anyway, so he had
Mm.
Houston with the 1 point pick. They came close but were unable to cover on the road against Indianapolis. Detroit was his 2 point pick, covered in overtime, and then his 3 point pick was one that I was very jealous of because I didn't have the stones to make it, and he had the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I mean, what a that cover when you fucking take a team that doesn't score a touchdown on the road with a backup quarterback and you still cover and they win outright. If anything's lucky, that's a fucking lucky pick. He
Yeah.
didn't write. He didn't draw that one up. His whole analysis was based on Russell Wilson. We didn't even know fucking Justin Fields was gonna play. You know what I'm
We make
saying?
our
And then
own
they
luck.
don't score a touchdown, and he still not only covers, but they win outright. Like that's not the way we drew it up. But we're not throwing that win back either, right?
Don't blink.
I think that's the way probably Mike Tomlin drew it up, but that's definitely not the way that anybody who bet the fucking Steelers plus the 3.5 drew it up. I mean, kicking field goaling your way to winning. That's man, Mike Tomlin. I
It's
feel
excellent.
bad
It's the
because
way it's the way it's the he it's like it's like wins like Mike Tomlin and wins, right? It's like he
yeah,
chokes he has the W by the little thing on the top and is choking it. Like he has to like that's how like he wins games he's not supposed to, but just by the little things that make him a good coach. If he was
hell
like
yeah,
any one there's got to be at least 3 or 4 games every season for the Pittsburgh Steelers that Mike Tomlin wins. Not anything that's going on the field. Mike Tomlin, just the way that like his whole approach to the game. It's like he's really conservative, but he's all in on being conservative. He's not wavering. He's not like this is how I'm gonna chop a tree down with a nail file if I have to. As long as it takes me and as long as it chop down that tree, that's how I'm gonna do it. And I know I can do it. I'm just gonna do it my way.
yeah. The one thing that I will say, and I'm finally coming around to this, not fully, but at least I'm trying to be understanding to the Steelers fans. The one thing I will say is that I'm starting to be a little bit more compassionate to the frustrated to the Steelers fans who are frustrated with Mike Tomlin, just because it's very easy to celebrate Mike Tomlin as a better because of his against the spread because of his spread against the spread, particularly against, as a dog, and it's great to celebrate covering with the Steelers without having to score a touchdown. But if you're a Steelers fan, at
Yeah,
some
that's not the way.
point you like that no longer like really does it for you. You know what I'm saying? At
It's
some
too.
point,
It's
just
too.
being the notorious, the guy who wins all the close games and is like right there on
The
the
backdoor
fringe, never
coverer.
really super competitive, but always just like pesky. Like at some point, you don't want to continuously just be pesky every year. So
And knock him
I
out, drag
will
him out.
say that I feel like they do need. It's unfortunate because I felt like this year, should have been a kind of a year where they are looking to take that next step since they finally have ended the Kenny Pickett debacle experiment. But I don't know, man. I really wanted to see Justin Fields do well in Atlanta. He didn't. I mean, the one thing I will give him credit for, no turnovers. I'll give him credit for that. Not that he didn't fumble, because he gave me my fumble that I
Oh,
wanted. I
oh
love
yeah.
his fumbles. They're my favorite fumbles. But didn't lose the ball, so I'll give him credit for that. And I'm sure that I'll bet you that he had a little private conversation with Mike Tomlin before. He like, don't pull that fucking. This ain't Chicago, bro. I win these
Yeah.
games, and I don't need you to score touchdowns. I don't need you to
Yeah.
run. I don't need you to do shit. Just do what I say, and don't turn the fucking ball over.
Mm.
That's the
Yeah.
that's the
Exactly.
conversation I imagine Mike Tomlin having
Mm.
with Justin Fields. Like, yo, it ain't
Because
gonna
I
be
don't
no
know, man.
breaking records
It's
rushing. It ain't
like,
gonna be none of that bullshit.
like the way he falls. It's like he's trying to fumble. Like he puts his arm up all the way up and just like, yo, please, somebody take this from me. Like
Yo, his
I don't get it.
fumbles.
It's crazy.
His
And speaking of
fumbles, like, they
and
define the term, like when they say the ball squirts out. That's how it always seems
yeah,
when it's a Justin Fields fumble.
yeah,
It's like
it's like
like
a
that shit
wet.
is like a ketchup
Yeah.
packet and the ball goes flying. Oh
Yo, but
man.
your man, Mr. Unlimited, in full get up on the
Oh no, what happened? I
sideline
didn't see
after
him. I
being
didn't even see him. I didn't even see that.
well, first of all, uh we had the game on and I was like, and I found it strange. I was like, why is he wearing his pads and everything? I told Adriel, I was like, why is he wearing his pads? It's so weird. And then I was like, I was kind of thinking, you know, maybe they do this. Maybe I'm just wilding it, and and even when they're inactive, most players like still rock I don't know, maybe emergency quarterback. I don't know. I don't know what the situation is.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, at least he didn't have eye black on. All right. And then about a half hour later, they pan back to him, and now he's got eye black on. And I'm like, yo, what are you doing?
He's the man.
And then I saw a couple posts about that, like him wearing. So if it and like I guess my initial reaction was validated because there was people making fun of him being
Yeah.
in full getup on the sideline. So man, he's such a peculiar dude, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And now I don't know. I mean, it's funny because it's like I love how, of course, after the game, of course, the media is going to ask Coach Tomlin about who's going to be next week's starter. And of course, he's going to shut down that question with the fucking shield of life. Like, get the fuck. Like, he's never going to give you that. They're always going to ask. But before the game started, it was kind of like everyone was kind of saying, if Justin Fields does well, Russell Wilson might not ever get a chance to even start for the Steelers. And it's like they won the game, but I mean, did Justin Fields, he didn't do it. The only thing he did well was not turn the ball over. Is that going to be enough to even get him a week 2 start? I haven't checked. Obviously they'll do the first injury report for week 2 comes out tomorrow. I don't even know if Russell Wilson is on it. I don't know I don't know how close he was to playing, but
Yeah,
I mean
because it
it'll
didn't
be
seem
interesting
like it
to
was
see
something
where
that was
where
lingering.
where where Tomlin goes.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, though, it's like he's so no nonsense that I don't even think that anybody's going to like they're not going to get the reporters are not going to get what they want from him. Mike Tomlin's going to give them what he wants to give them.
Yeah,
So it's like it's not, and it's not going to be
yeah.
like,
We
yeah,
might
we're
not know
still
who the
debating.
starter is until Sunday.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like he's going to say, haven't made a decision yet. It'll I'll let you guys know when I come to that decision. And it's like you can't ask him again. Like he's not going to entertain any of this buffoonery. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Um, so we're gonna have to see with that one because they might do the thing where they kind of like act like the reason he's not starting is because they want the heal up and don't want like long term concerns, and then
yeah.
that buys them another week. And then when Justin Fields, I almost called him Justin Fumbles. I literally almost said I had to stop myself. And when if he does one of those because one thing's for sure, he's always going to give you a game where you're going to be like, oh, maybe this does work out. Maybe we got something here. And then a week or two later, it's like, oh, yeah, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
And maybe maybe they get the easy way, out where they don't have to hurt Russell's feelings or anything like that, because we all know that he's a guy that you would worry about hurting his feelings and the way that he would approach the game if so.
Yeah. Now, on the other side of that specific game, Falcons, a much discussed team coming into the season. I felt like the Steelers, no one can say that they saw, like, I don't care as much as we've talked about Mike Tomlin, and as much as I want to say, as much as we have said, that's such a classic Mike Tomlin way of going. I still can't, with a straight face, say I knew that that's how it was going to look from the Steelers side, that they weren't going to score a touchdown, they were going to field goal their way to a win. I can't say that, but I feel like on the Falcons side, it's almost exactly how I expected it to look.
Hmm.
Like, I expected the offensive struggles that they had, I expected them to have. Um, the defense, I don't even really know what to make of the defense because, like you said, it doesn't. They have such a conservative game plan. When you're not really challenging a defense at all, I can't. I mean, obviously, yeah, they held them. They held the team to 6 field goals. That should be considered a impressive defensive performance. But when we when we look on the other side and it's like, yo, that's Mike Tomlin has you right where he wants you when you think
Yeah.
you're succeeding by holding him
Hmm.
to 6 field goals, and he's thinking like, I got 6 field goals on you. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, I don't know if I can really give the Falcons defense a grade at all, because while they lost and they let the Steelers get what they wanted, the Steelers only wanted 6 field goals.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't really know how much
Yeah.
credit to give them. It'll be interesting to see where they go next week. I haven't looked at Falcons' schedule. I don't know who do the Falcons have next week. Next week, Falcons have. Let's see. Next week, Falcons have this. Oh, they have the
Saints.
Eagles on the road. That's going to be a tough
Oh,
one because I think, I mean, the Eagles, what's funny, because I don't even know if I look at the teams, both the Packers and the Eagles, who played that Friday game, while technically they have an extra day and a half rest. Coming back for doing the whole Brazil thing, I feel like it's a bit of a wash. Like, I feel
yeah.
like that extra day's rest just brings you back to where you would have been if you played on Sunday. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I don't know that I really consider them as having that much more rest. And it's weird
Because
because, like,
even
this is technically their home opener, even though their first game was a home game.
yeah, because like even when you're going over to Europe, I mean, what's the flight to Germany? Oh, well, I guess maybe the flight to Germany, but I mean, England, going to London, it's a 6 hours or whatever. Also, I mean, from here, depending on where you're coming from, if it's like, for example, like the Vikings,
Yeah. Well, they were
that's
going from Philly, so comparable flight.
no, but because they said, I think it was like 8 hours or 8.5 hours, something like that,
Wait, what do you mean? For the
to
for
to go to
the
Brazil.
Yeah, no, it was no, closer to 10. Almost 10
Okay,
hours.
so that's what I'm saying. It's like a heavier load, like as opposed to like going over to Europe. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
So, and just the whole setup, it just seemed like it seemed like the whole thing was uncomfortable. Like, being in a hotel that's part of the airport. You know what I'm saying? It was just like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just seemed it seemed like this was a little bit more to get over. So, I mean, I guess they built in those two extra days into it, probably for that reason to kind of get their legs under them a little bit more, give them a little bit more time to recover. Uh, um, so yeah, I mean, that's still going to be a tough one though, man, because it just seems like Atlanta is the type of team that won't do well with physical teams, and I think Philadelphia, the way that they want to win, at least right now, is with physicality. I know they have stars everywhere, but run game, Jalen Hurts running it. AJ Brown is a monster, so that's going to be a tough one for him.
Yeah. And I keep on having flashbacks of, I think it was last season. Excuse me. pretty sure it was last season. I think it was early. I think it might have been week 2. I would have to look back and check, but it was one of the first. I feel like it was one of the first Monday night games of the season. Vikings going into Philadelphia, where Kirk Cousins had a nightmare. Darius Slay is catching interceptions and handing them off to James Harden. Wasn't that last season in the first couple of weeks? Do you remember that
Mm.
game? I believe it was a
Well,
Monday
I know
night
that they
game. I think
started
it
off
was like week
terribly
2 or
last year.
3 or 4. It was like early in the season, and Kirk just had a total meltdown in Philly against the Philly defense.
Mm.
And that's kind of what I'm picturing this coming Monday night as well. Just because clearly the Falcons' offense is not clicking, not on the same page, and I don't expect everything to get corrected in 1 week. I mean, granted, I think the going up against the Philadelphia defense is a considerable step down from taking on the Steelers defense, but you're still going into Philly on a Monday night, which is in what will be their technically, home opener. That's just a tough spot
Mm.
that's a tough spot for a guy like Kirk Cousins, who, while I have respect for him as a quarterback, he's not exactly, Mr. Prime Time. So I feel like that's going to be a tough spot. I don't think I can really get involved with the Falcons next week. I feel like coming off
Mm.
of all the games we saw Sunday, there's a few teams that I still got to wait and see. Falcons are one of them. I think that they're going to kind of be a work in progress all season. Similarly, the Bengals. I mean, I've already bet. I will be full disclosure. I've already bet the Bengals next week because
Mm.
I don't know how much longer. I got 6.5, like pretty much right after the game was over and they lost to the Patriots. And I was just like,
Mhm.
this thing sitting at 6.5. I don't know how much longer this is going to be here.
Mhm.
Like, listen, Wednesday afternoon, if T Higgins is not not on the injury report, and Jamar Chase is looking good in practice, and it looks like they're going to have their full complement of receivers going into Kansas City, coming off of a loss. I mean, the Bengals, if this is going to be a disaster year for them, I don't think it will be, but even if it is, I just still feel like that Bengals Chiefs rivalry still is a thing
Real.
to me until proven otherwise. And either team, any spot, home or away, if I'm getting 6 points, I can't not take it until you know what I'm saying, until proven otherwise. These just feel like it
Yeah.
feels like the Chiefs Bengals. Like I said, I don't know what's going on with the Bengals. We had all kind of forecast them as a team that was going to be under Joe Burrow, a competitive contender for years to come. I'm not ready to completely be out on that, but less about how they lost on Sunday and more just about, like we were talking about via text on Sunday, just about the stench that just seems to be coming out of the locker room and out of the facility there between what's going on with Chase and Higgins. I just don't like the vibes that's coming out of there, so I don't know what to expect from them. But for at least this week, until you've proven to me that the Burrow Mahomes thing it's over, I can't not take Burrow with 6 points. He's played so
Yeah.
well in Kansas City. Again, it's very early in the season, so the Bengals have not gotten off to hot starts the last few years. But then and again, maybe the Chiefs with extra rest are going to completely just blow them away, and I'll look like a fool. But that's just a number I couldn't
Mhm.
pass on, just because I don't even know that it'll last. I think after injury reports come out, if we get an understanding that we're going to get T Higgins back on the field, I feel like that could get bet down to like a 4.5 3.5, pretty quickly. So,
Mm. Well, I mean, wait, well, we were talking. I don't know if you had seen this, but they did say uh
well, I missed something injury
Steelers
report
do
wise.
do plan, yeah, plan on starting Justin Fields on Sunday again.
Oh, okay. They've already said that. Wow. Mike T being
Yeah,
forthcoming. That's surprising.
yeah. He
All
zigs when you
right.
zag.
Exactly. Just when you thought you had Mike T. You know what? And that actually tells me something too. Just the fact that he was willing to give that information early. That tells me two things.
Mm,
That tells me A, that there was no question and no hesitation about it.
yeah.
Like he's not.
Mm.
And B, it
No
makes me
reindeer
think that,
games.
yeah, and it also makes me think that they're not sold on Russell Wilson at all, because it's not even like
Yeah.
you were gonna wait a couple days to see. Like they clearly don't feel like Russell Wilson is in any way substantially better than Justin Fields. Like they're not even willing to wait until
Mhm.
fucking Wednesday to see if he's
To
gonna
put
be
him
able to
out,
get
yeah.
it. Yeah. Like, if you're not even willing to wait until Wednesday to see how it's not like he fucking broke his leg. It's like a strain. Like, you don't know how that could improve
Mhm.
between now and kickoff, but they're willing to just be like, we're gonna roll with Fields. So to me, that feels like. And listen, Fields, man, I mean, the guy, that just feels like a very much opportunity for him. And if he can't do something next week, who knows? But we shall see. So then the other kind of marquee games we could touch on, we did Giants, Titans, Bears. I mean, that was something. Thank God. I was very, very tempted
Something.
to bet Titans, and I don't know that I would be here doing this stream if I had bet Titans. I don't know that I could. I don't know that I could
Yeah.
stomach an against the spread loss like that. Like that was to be up
Mhm.
like that in a game.
I mean that one's more that one's more that one's that's more of Mike Tomlin win than the Steelers win.
The
I
Bears.
feel like Mike Tomlin would be proud if they won that way.
No, of course. The only
Yeah,
way it would be
yeah. No,
better
I'm
is if
saying
they were
like
on
I
the
think
road.
if the Mike Tom, yeah, yeah. Well,
Like, just the fact that
yeah.
Chicago was home, I think that Mike
It's
Tomlin would be
I don't know.
even more proud to do something like that on the road. But man,
Mhm.
I mean the
Yeah,
Titans
it
being
was
up
disgusting. Like
17
you didn't see
points
anything. Did anything come down?
in terms of
Did
what?
did anything come up with Roma Dunze?
I haven't seen
Because I
I
know
haven't
he
seen
he had
anything
an
recently.
MRA.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
haven't seen anything
Yeah.
recently.
It wasn't good.
Well, the one
And
thing
he
is I
was
think that he's
and he was
the
terrible again.
yeah, I feel like his availability is it's a question obviously for the long-term future of the Bears, but for the short-term future, I think they got more important things that they got to figure out. But to be fair, they probably need him there, but I don't know. I don't even know what to make of the Bears after that performance. I mean, I will say the one thing I can make of the Bears is that I think we all kind of expected that they would have a good defense this year, and I think that was, I don't know if I would go as far as to say totally confirmed, but the defense they have a legitimate defense. I think it's going to be interesting to see. They got the Sunday night game next week against C.J. Stroud. That's going to be an interesting one. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to look at the game just yet, but we'll see. And then Dolphins Jags was an interesting game. I was tempted to go Jags in that game, but I didn't. I don't regret it, even though the Jags probably should have won that game. But that's
Yeah.
exactly why
You would have
I don't
regretted
really
it because that's what the Jaguars do. Yeah, we
exactly.
all, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they always do that. It's either that they go up by a
I mean,
lot
they
and
did
then
cover,
lose,
but
go, yeah, but I mean,
they did
yeah,
like
chin,
they
chin,
did
chin.
the Jaguars thing. They covered just because the number was right for them, not because they did anything to deserve the
Yeah,
cover.
yeah, it was. so frustrating to watch. Um,
How do you feel
and the
about this
Bills game
Thursday
was
game?
another one that
How do you feel
was
about the
frustrating to
Dolphins this
watch.
Thursday? Dolphins this Thursday at home against the
Um,
Bills.
I like I
I
do
already bet that one too.
I want to. What side did you go on?
I took the
Dolphins.
Dolphins. I did the Dolphins -2 because I was like, as soon as those games are over and I'm seeing that Josh Allen's having problems with his hand, I was like, I would already, if Josh Allen was 100% healthy in the game, anytime I'm looking at a Thursday game, especially early in the season, I'm looking for the home team on a Thursday almost always, especially in a division game.
Hmm.
So I would have been looking Dolphins anyway, but I just again, the only reason I didn't bet it because I was super confident in it. I just bet it because of the uncertainty with Josh Allen, and I'm like, if he ends up for whatever reason, even if he plays, if he is compromised, that's a great number to have. If we find out that he has,
Yeah.
some type of limits or something, that number could go up to 3.5, 4. So I was like, well, while the two
Yeah,
was
yeah.
there
And I mean
available, let me put a little something on the two.
I know that the Jaguars offensive line isn't great, but um the Dolphins pass rush did look pretty good, especially in that fourth quarter towards the end of the third quarter when they made their comeback or whatever and had uh Trevor Lawrence all flustered and stuff. So um I think that's a I don't know. I mean, obviously the Bills offensive line is pretty good, but if that hand means that, Josh Allen isn't going to be able to be, he doesn't have the green light to be stiff arming people
Yeah,
and doing all that, crazy nonsense that he does. It kind of takes a lot out of his game. And I don't know, man. He's frustrating to watch as well, but because that game should have been that should have been your boys game. John That should have been Johnny G's game. Yeah, I didn't like some of the play calling at the end, and that's kind of what did them in. But it was there for them.
yeah. So, I guess the last thing I wanted to touch on would be I have to I will say I'm proud of myself, but I'm also ashamed
Hmm.
when it comes to the Panthers because
Hmm.
like we have all of our preseason, futures conversation. I said that I really like the number, the over under win number for the Panthers. I picked the Panthers to win the division. Obviously, the Panthers were disgusting, and they made the Saints look incredible. But thankfully, the reason why I say I'm proud is because unlike a lot of the other, like I know that there have been a lot of people coming around, like at least professional type bettors coming around to hyping up the Panthers this year. And so many of them bet them week one. That I was never going to do. Like
Hmm.
I'll take a broader scope view and I'll be like, okay, like I said when I picked them to win the division, it was really based off of the fact that I just have no faith in any of the other teams in the division, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I saw so many people like, oh, Panthers 4.5. You gotta take that number.
I did like that too. I'm not gonna even lie.
Well, it's not that. Here's the thing. It's not that I hated it. It's just that I wasn't gonna fucking cannonball
Well,
head
yeah,
first into the
yeah, of
Panthers
course.
pool. Like that's when like you know what I'm saying. Like when I'm not only interested in them long term full season, but I'm like, yo, week one, I believe in this, and we just diving in now. That's what when I saw so many
Hmm.
people making that pick against the spread, who I had listened to making the case for them full season. I was like, oh nah, now you wildin'. Now not only are you
Yeah.
wildin', you making me question the full season shit because I'm like, whoa, like y'all sold like that. Like what are y'all watching? Like because
Mhm.
like again, I have expectations that they will be improved, but but again, like week one, man, don't overthink this thing, man. Don't overthink this thing and don't get overly gassed. Like, come on, like a team like that was so bad last year to bet them. How do you bet them week one? Like, I can't bet a terrible team week one
That's a
just
wait and
based off
see.
of, yeah, that's a wait and see team. The same way I can't just assume that a good team last year is going to maintain dominance and just blindly bet whoever, whether it was like that's why I wasn't in on the Niners, or even the like I was reticent about the Chiefs, because it's like you don't know what week one is tough, but to take a trash ass team week one, that's crazy. I can't get down
That's
with that.
with
So
no
while
proof. Yeah,
I'll
that's
be
crazy.
interested to see if I'm reading here now that the Panthers, I think they might be, and this is more of a probably a prop or a fantasy play. The Panthers, I expected the defensive line to be shaky after losing Burns.
Hmm.
Now I'm reading here that they lost their second best defensive lineman as well for the season, who's been placed on IL.
Brown.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to be looking at seeing which offenses are going to be taking them on, and they're going to be. I don't know how they're going to stop people because they clearly could not
Mhm.
stop the Saints. Now, Saints, I'm sorry. Again, another reason why I don't care how in on the Panthers you were coming into the year, and how down you might have been on the Saints. Saints home opener with a team that was disgustingly horrible the year before. It's a tough ask,
Yeah.
man. Like Saints, no matter how bad the Saints are, I need a good team if I'm gonna fade them home opener.
Hmm.
Like they still have a good, they still get a decent, they still get a good crowd, they still have a good home atmosphere. Like that just was a crazy spot. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what the Saints end up looking like. I don't believe that what they did against the Panthers is indicative of them being a dominant team. I think it'll be very interesting to see what they next week when they go into Dallas.
Hmm.
But I just wanted to I want to be upfront about how I received the Panthers performance, because it was, I mean, like I wasn't I let me ask you this: Who? We'll finish this and we'll get up out of here because I got WNBA to watch. But of the two, which I think were probably the I don't know that anybody would make an argument that the two worst performances in Week One weren't Giants and Panthers, right?
Yeah.
Of
Mhm.
those two, which do you think changed, or neither? But if you change the way you viewed them for this year based off of that game, which one changed more, or just how do you receive those two teams moving forward? Do you think that one has a significantly better chance of being turning it around and being good, or are you completely out on one because of the
I,
performance? How do you compare
I
those two?
think I think that it's honestly, I think both of them, but just different ways. The Panthers, I was more concerning because of what I think of the Saints and what the overall vibes felt like like in the direction that they were going. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
then for them to lay that goose egg where there was like they were really pressing hard to not get shut out. Like they were,
yeah,
like even at the end of the game, like they were moving the ball a little bit, but they were trying hard. Like even when the game was completely out of hand.
yeah,
So that's concerning to me. Um on the Giants side, it's like I it's different because I kind of I didn't think that they were going to be good. So them losing, I guess, wasn't really shocking to me, but the way that well, the way that they lost was pretty shocking in terms of like how bad the defense looked against that, against that team. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
and that
saying?
quarterback.
It, yeah, yeah, that you know what I'm saying? It's like they made him look like a superstar. It
Yeah,
was 10, I think it was 10, was it 11? It might have been 11 or 12 completions in a row,
yeah,
which is, you know what I'm saying? It was like they're both concerning, but like concerning differently because I felt like the trajectory for the Panthers just felt like it was the overall. I just felt like there was positivity on that side. And then just to see that get stomped out so violently
yeah.
was concerning. The Giants is like I would expect them to lose. I just didn't like I didn't expect them to lose like that, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I feel you. I think for me, I feel like I look at it very similarly to the way that you do. The only thing for me that you didn't mention that I was at least thinking about with the Panthers, and maybe I'm just a complete fool and a sucker, but the difference for me is that the Giants didn't have huge expectations for them, but we kind of know where they are. We we kind of know where they are on offense. It's like this is a this is a make or break situation for Daniel Jones. If it doesn't work out with Daniel Jones, then the season, not that the season is over, but the expectations are completely over, and we know that they're going to be looking to get a new quarterback next year. The Panthers, I thought I would see some improvement from Bryce Young. And
Yeah.
I
Especially
know
with
that there's a
the
lot of
offensive
people.
line.
Yeah, like I know that there's a lot of people that are kind of like he should have never been drafted where he was. He's too small. But there's also again, I'm not a huge college football guy. I watched a little bit of Bryce
That's
Young when he was in
revisionist
college.
history.
Yeah, but I just feel like
Everybody loves to do that after the fact.
yeah, like after fucking C.J. Stroud is lighting it up, and everybody, oh, I knew all along it was going to be C.J.
Oh,
Stroud.
yeah.
But I mean, I just feel like Bryce Young had a ton of hype for for what I feel like was 2 years, and I will admit that kind of as the draft was approaching, there were some questions that started to come up about him, but just not in terms of like off the field or anything like that, but there were some questions about, oh, is he too small, has he, is he big enough, whatever. But I really thought that Canales was going to be able to put something better together on offense
Yeah, be
to
more
get
creative.
something out of Bryce Young. Man, like I really thought that they were going to be able to figure out how to whatever talent and potential people saw in him in college. I thought that some of that would kind of be microwaved up, and he looked just as small, just as bad as he did last year. I didn't see anything different. I didn't see any. He didn't look more confident. In fact, he looked less confident. He didn't
Yeah.
look more competent. He looked less competent. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, yo, if they can't get anything out of him, if he ends up being like a complete bust, like a Josh Rosen or Wilson type, a Zach Wilson type joint, then there's no hope for them obviously this year, and there's no hope for them for the next 5 years. Like if he ends up being like a bench candidate this year, if he ends up getting benched, oh my god, then that's the only thing that when I'm comparing the Giants and the Vikings, like I feel like the Giants, I didn't really have too
They're
many
kind of resigned.
expectations for
They're kind of
them.
resigned to what their fate is.
Yeah, and like last year we saw them, kind of be able to figure something out and be competitive even with their second and third string quarterbacks, just because whether it was scheming or defense or whatever, they were able to kind of scrap their way to be competitive in enough games that keep you interested. But the Panthers, they weren't scrappy or competitive last year. I thought at minimum they could be this year what the Giants were last year, maybe,
Yeah.
and be scrappy and competitive, have a losing record, but kind of, has something to build on. And if they can't get it done, can't even be remotely competitive against the Saints, who I don't think are going to be very good, man,
Yeah.
then I just really will have gotten it completely wrong with them. Because like again, my my over bet for them was not based on them, winning double digit games. I thought that they could maybe they could do what the Bucks did last year and win the division with 8 wins. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Go 8-9 and win a bad division. I thought that the Panthers that was kind of like their ceiling.
Hmm.
But it doesn't even look like that's in play right now because, and again, it's only week 1, so we'll wait and see what they do next week. But
Overreaction Tuesday.
yeah, but I mean, I will say, going, I mean, they're gonna. I don't even want to get into. We can get into that another day, but they're hosting. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do next week against Jim Harbaugh coming to town. Their home
Mm.
opener with the Chargers, and they have an interesting schedule the next couple of weeks. They have the Chargers at home, then they fly out west to play the Raiders, and then they have Cincinnati at home. That's a weird. That's a
Yeah.
weird schedule for an NFC team playing AFC teams in 3 consecutive weeks to start
Uh-huh.
in weeks 2 through 4. And those are, you know, coming into but before last week, I would have said that the Panthers could have had a chance to win that game against the Chargers at home, week 2. Now I feel
Yeah.
much less confident in
Yeah.
even suggesting something like that. And then the Raiders, the Raiders have to beat them at home. Like the Raiders have to beat the Panthers in that home game.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's going to be a tough game for the Panthers to win. We'll see what that spread ends up being. That's not until week 3, but that'll be, based off depending on what happens in that Chargers Panthers game. If the Panthers get blown out again, I don't think it'll matter what happens with the Raiders and the Ravens week 2. If the Panthers get blown out again, they'll be double-digit dogs
Yeah.
going into Las Vegas in Week 3. But yeah, man, the really quickly just to end on the Raiders Chargers because I talked about it when I was recapping my picks. I felt like that was a weird game because it was ugly. It was a very low scoring. The one thing I will say I was proud of was that, and even in making the pick, I said it was 100% under game. I'm taking the under, and that was, that was never really in doubt. But I felt like the Raiders were right there, and then
Yeah. They
they
weren't.
weren't. And
Yeah.
like, because I knew it was like, it felt like 2 teams that were kind of like, one of these teams is going to kind of break the seal and pull away. And the whole time, even up until like, midway through the 4th quarter, I felt like that team was still had a good chance to be the Raiders. And it never happened. And then they just made all the mistakes in the end, which that didn't really shock me. But I was just like, man, that was a tough spot. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the Raiders. I think I was most disappointed with the Raiders' defense. Not that they played horribly, but they
Yeah,
kind
but the
of
thing is, it's like the
made big mistakes
matchups.
in the end. So
Yeah, the matchups is like that's a game where like the Raiders, you know, they're flashy defense, like sacks, fumbles, and all that type of stuff. I think that John Harbaugh just or Jim Harbaugh just doesn't play offense the way that's conducive for
yeah,
that
yeah, that's a good point.
defense to do their thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's very conservative. It's gonna, run the ball down your throat. It's gonna be, because I mean, like even having a quarterback like Justin Herbert. I mean, I know I had 4 games on going on at the same time, but I didn't really see any of the stuff that makes all the Justin Herbert lovers salivate, like in terms of like the deep throws, the
Yo,
crazy,
no, 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 no.
you know what I'm saying? So it's like
Not
it
at
was
all.
like, okay, we have that, you have that in your back pocket. You know what I'm saying? And Harbaugh's going to leave it in his back pocket until he has no other option. And, running the ball, they were running it well, like, J.K. Dobbins you know, and coming back from all those injuries. I mean, he had a good game. I wasn't expecting that. I was like, I was I was actually shocked that that he had as much pep in his step that he did.
Yeah.
And once that
Gus
happened, once
Edwards
they
had
were
the most Gus Edwards game ever. This is Gus Edwards forever stat line, except he's just usually he gets a touchdown with this,
yeah,
but 11 carries, 26 yards. That's Gus
yeah.
Edwards.
But it's usually, you know, the other running J.K. Dobbins would have been, had a
Who would have been
60-yard
writhing in
run.
pain on the sidelines.
Chill.
Would have
Would have
been
had a
in the blue
60
tent.
would have had a 65-yard run, would have been in the blue tent while Gus Edwards, scores a
Yeah,
touchdown
scores
that
it
he
exactly.
after he brought it down to the 5-yard line. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And you didn't even get that. So
But the one thing about that game, the reason why, because I'm like sitting there, the Raiders score they score a touchdown in the first quarter, and I'm like, they have the 7-3 lead, and I'm just like, all right, like I didn't once they got the 7-3 lead, I'm like, I don't expect the Chargers to score. I think they're probably gonna end this game at like 14 or 17. So I'm like, yo, Raiders, just get me one more tutty, and we should be able to cover this 3.5. And they were never able to get that second score. And I was just watching the game like, oh my God, they're up 7-3, they're up 7-3. Okay, the fucking Chargers kicking up the field goal. Now they're up 7-6. And then third quarter, they're still up 7-6. Now they're losing 9-7. I'm like, yo, score a point. I'm like, yo, I would have loved it if they would have lost that game, or if they would have won that game 10-9, or lost the game 12-10, field goaling their way to a cover. But to just kind of hang around the whole game and then end up, blowing the cover with that last touchdown at the end, I was like, oh my God, how did they stay in the game the whole game until the end and then just completely fall apart? But what can you do? I don't know. These Raiders, I don't know. I don't know what to do with them. I don't even know what to take away from that game with the Raiders or the Chargers. I think the Chargers were gritty, but I don't know that I expect them to. I don't know that it just changes my expectation for them, but I don't know. We shall see. We shall see what happens next week. Next thing we have coming up is obviously the Thursday night game. Still not 100% sure what we're going to get in terms of Josh Allen's health, but the one thing that kind of made me, like I said, I bet the game already. I took the Dolphins minus the 2. I was almost reticent to do it just because I was like, is there going to be some sort of lingering distraction from everything that I almost feel like the Tyreek Hill shit that happened before the game was so kind of chaotic that it had minimal impact on the actual game. I feel like it could potentially be more impactful with the Thursday game, as Tyreek and Mike McDaniel, and now they have to kind of answer these questions as more things start coming out. They're trying to prepare for a Thursday game on a short week, and they're going to have to do interviews about Miami PD. I don't know how that's going to go, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Hopefully
they
give
use
us
it as a
another,
rallying cry.
hopefully, I don't even know how you rally behind that, but well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens, but that's gonna do. I mean, listen, the box once again in the lead. The box and Word Life tied for the lead with 4 points. Uh, still early. I got my. This is the most proud I've ever been of 1 point, though. I will say that. Very
Mhm.
proud of my one New England Patriots point. The only thing I'm
Yeah, that
upset
was a
about
good.
is that I
I do. I mean, obviously, in hindsight, obviously, whatever. But just the overall thing of like the Bengals usually don't start out, like um, as world beaters to begin with, even when they have a full squad, and him coming off like not seeing much action, and with the uncertainty of the injury, that was a beautiful pick. I'm
yeah
just mad that you only made it a one.
I was just gonna say that because I had gone I was going into and this is full disclosure, and I'm not making excuses, but I will be honest about the way that the way that the whole week one played out, that we had to record them separately and all that. We kind of lost the flow of how we usually do the picks, and like so, I had picks ready and set for Thursday, and I at that
Mm.
time I had planned on taking the Patriots as my 3 point pick, and then on Friday when I was recording the word life picks, he's like, "Oh, so what are your picks? What are Flex's picks?" And then I was thinking like, "Okay, so are we gonna?" Because I kind of felt like I felt weird if I didn't know if we're gonna reveal the picks, or we're all gonna find out at once, or it's gonna be a surprise. Um, so the whole thing got through, and because he was like he didn't want to make the same picks as you. So then, like, I had the Jets. I had the Jets. Actually, you know what I had? I had what ended up being my money line parlay picks, except for New England. Those were going to be my against the spread picks, but then I ended up swapping it because I was like, I was then I was thinking about maybe I'll make the Giants my 3 point pick. I just got all
Yeah,
confused, but no
yeah,
excuses. No excuses. We live
yeah.
to fight another day.
From now on, Cheeks, if you're watching, even if we're not gonna like for if something happens and we're not able to like be on Thursday, the pick's got to be in on Thursday.
Yeah, it should be
Because
a
even that
Thursday.
extra, because even that extra day, something
Well,
pops
I
up
did.
on.
Well, I did. We did stick to the Thursday lines, so that we at least did
Yeah,
that because there were a few lines that he might have gotten the better of the number because they moved from Thursday to Friday. But we saved the Thursday line so that it was at least fair from that standpoint. But
yeah,
yeah, no, we gotta.
yeah. That's a
I think he
whole.
should make his
That's a
picks
whole
on
other.
Wednesday because that's what he wants to do. So maybe he can make his
Uh,
maybe he can make his
no,
picks
because I'm saying
tomorrow.
like because even let's say like for example like how Jordan Mason said that he knew on Friday,
Which
you
is
know had
also
the
there's going to be an investigation
had the
with that.
49ers had the 49ers been a morally just organization, and that news actually came out on Friday. That totally that I mean, not that it totally changed the outcome. Obviously, we saw what happened, but in terms of like the numbers change. Maybe it entices somebody else to pick them. You know what I'm saying? So like
Yeah,
all of
no,
that
for
stuff
sure.
kind of like mattered.
Yeah, yeah. So we gotta. Hopefully, we'll be back on our regularly scheduled program. It seems like I feel like this is the third year in a row though that there has been some hiccup with week one, but
Mm.
whatever. We're back on track. We'll be back to our winning ways. Hopefully, beginning on Thursday. But week one is in the books. The games have begun. The fantasies. I know that. Did you have Bengals in any of your Survivor joints?
Yes, I did. I'm very angry about that
Yeah,
on
because
one
I
of
know that
them.
a lot of people got bounced because of that.
Yeah, I
And
had to
this,
buy back in.
I will 100% admit, despite my against the spread Patriots pick, I still would have went Bengals for Survivor. So I can't sit there and act
Yeah,
like I would have had the money line because I won't lie, I did not.
yeah, because I have one that had the because that's the other thing I forgot that I want to make that like a 30-second or 1 minute segment on Thursdays going forward. But I had a if you have a buyback, which I had to do, um, buy back in for the Cincinnati Bengals. If you don't, I had the Seattle. So I had on one of my things I had the Bengals. On the other one I had the Seattle Seahawks, which was it was ugly to begin with, but it was beautiful. I'm still mad. I had last night I had another bad loss. I needed about 7 yards from George Kittle. I had the Alan Lazard. I had Alan Lazard
Oh, yo.
anytime touchdown. I had Alan Lazard two two catches. Garrett Wilson, I forget what the yards were. Had that. Then George Kittle. George Kittle, I had him with 48 yards. I think he had like 37 or 39. That's another tough one.
Yeah, I had
After the Jordan
touchdown.
Whittington
Yeah.
anytime TD that was plus 900 that got wiped off the board because of a holding call. That was another 300 down the drain.
Yeah, no, that was a
That
bad.
comes on top of
That
the
was a bad beat
two
parlay
of
for
the
you.
two TD. That was of the two TDs for Kenneth Walker debacle, where DK Metcalf
Your boy.
had an unnecessary hold. Yes, my boy. We can certainly now he's warranted. That we saw that
There
cost
should be
me
a
another
warrant out for his arrest.
300. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I've been saying that for a very long time. Very long time. And now there's evidence.
Yeah, I played it. I hit on a solo Alan Lazard anytime. But when he caught the second touchdown, the regret of because I was
Imagine how
tempted
much
to take his two anytime touchdowns. I think it was a crate. I forget
yeah.
what it was, but I was tempted to throw a little something on it because it was just so crazy. But I was like, I already had a lot of balls in the air, and I'm like, I don't. We always just you play a million parlays, you crush your
Yeah.
profit margin. And I had a good one with the Alan Lazard touchdown in a parlay with Brees Hall, 60 yards, and he had 58, and that really hurt me. But I hit on my I started out the year so far, for whatever reason, these primetime games, I always put together defensive tackles and assist parlay, and I'm money with them. I hit on last night. I had who did I have? I had C.J. Mosley, Quincy Williams, and Quinnen Williams. Those three in a parlay, and then on
You had missed tackles or
no, I had CJ tackles and assists. I was gonna go his assists, but he ended up not hitting the assists. So I was glad that I went with the solos and assists because he gets he stacks up a lot of assist tackles, whereas I feel like Quincy has his total percentage is more solos.
yeah.
So that was why I did him solo tackles over 4.5. That cash and the CJ number was so low. I had to. It was 7.5 tackles plus assists. So, and then the night before I had it's in the DraftKings. It's in the app. A couple of people who followed me tailed, and it was a 10-1. I forget who I even had in there, but that shit cashed. So I'm gonna try to keep that going. I'll definitely have one cooked up for Thursday night too. So my defensive primetime game parlays have been going well. Oh, I think
it was a little.
was the Rams Lions was where I had the other one.
This weekend was a little bit. This whole week of football was a little bit overwhelming. We're teetering on too much football. Watch it, Roger. All right.
You think so?
Let's dial it. Yeah, let's dial it back a little bit. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, for example, it was just like eight games on. Then you have 4 games. I think this week on Sunday we have 10 games at 1 o'clock, and we have 3 games at 4 o'clock. So even if you have two TVs, which I had two TVs, 4 and 4, I had two quad
Two quad
boxes.
boxes, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's my limit. You know what I'm saying? It might be a little bit too much. Might have to dial it back a little bit.
Well, the one thing I will
A
say
little bit.
too, and this is just me being nitpicky, but how do you start week one in New York and there's no CBS 1 o'clock local game? Like, I understand the Jets play Monday night. CBS, put a game on. Like, how do you not have double headers on the broadcast to start the season? Like, I'm of the mind that CBS and Fox both every week of the season they should have a one
Yeah.
o'clock and a 4 o'clock. That's
If you have two,
nationally.
yeah. I think the staple should be okay. I have two TVs. Either I have my local game and red zone on, or if not, if you're not, like the older, of the older persuasion, what I'm saying, like you have two TVs, you haul them up, and you can put Fox and you can put CBS because you know what I'm saying. That's those are two that you could dial up. You don't need any
Yeah.
streaming services, anything. Channel
Yeah, I'm just like, yo, how do
channel
they not
two,
have a CBS
channel
game?
5.
Like,
It's
I'm like, yo,
like I don't know.
how do I put on CBS on at 1 o'clock the first football Sunday and you don't have football? How does that happen?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, how am I
Like
putting on
who's gonna
CBS week one CBS? We've been waiting, hyped up. 1 o'clock, I put on, and we got Queen Latifah doing the Equalizer.
Yeah.
Crazy. Like,
Was that really it?
no, I don't think so. I just made that up. I was
No.
just trying. I
Oh.
just thought that if Queen Latifah would be a funny
Oh. Well, either
substitute
that
for
or a replay of
football.
Set It Off. Either that or a replay of Set It Off would have been fun.
Either or Soul Food.
Nah, but
or,
yeah.
or, 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 or,
Um,
or, or Beauty Shop.
have you watched what's it called yet?
Oh God,
Shit, what's the one with the with Steve Martin?
Queen Latifah movie?
The one I told you to
Bringing Down the
watch?
House.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That movie is crazy. That's a crazy movie.
Yeah, that would never be on Channel 2.
No, that shit's
Mm.
barely. That's. I'm surprised that they even showed that on HBO. Like
Yeah,
that movie is crazy. If you watch that shit now, that shit is crazy.
yeah, yeah.
But football is back. The picks are in. Week one is done, and we will return on Thursday to keep the train moving, baby.
Choo
Until
choo.
then,